With its first pick in the expansion draft, Charlotte selected Del Curry from the Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Charlotte Hornets select Rex Chapman of Kentucky.
We had so many different types of players on the team. You know, we had veterans, we had young guys, Kelly Trapirkin, Kirk Rambis, Earl Curtin, Robert Reed. They was more or less in the latter part of their career. Then we had Rex Chapman, myself, Del Curry, just coming in and being so young. But the way those guys really treated us and taught us about how to be professional was really was priceless.
Man, we kind of looked at each other. We know how to win. We know how to win. So the one thing we had to do was keep the young fellas' heads up.
We were kind of all in this together. There were good moments and bad moments, but that's typical of any NBA franchise. We were learning on the fly, but it was a lot of fun. At the same time, you've got to have some pride. You've got to have personal pride. You've got to have team pride.
I just remember the older guys telling, because we would get so upset as younger players who were coming from really good programs in college, that we were going to lose. The older guys would say, "Hey, man, listen, you can't get so upset over this game and this loss. We have to play again tomorrow, and we have to." So that was the toughest part about it.
It was an array of different talent. Some guys like myself trying to make a name and a career. Some guys coming to the end of their career. Some guys right in the middle of it. So
it was probably a byproduct of who we were. We were all kind of role players on our respective teams, whether we came in free agency or through the expansion draft, and the rookies trying to make their mark in the league. But I think everybody had a good work ethic.
It was a cast of characters. Obviously, in that situation, you're getting guys from all over. And I think we all played up to it a little bit to some extent because it was such a fun environment. And personalities came out because they were so willing to see our personalities.
The personalities of the guys kind of fit with that community, good solid work ethic, good people, good community, and they kind of bonded with us over that attitude.
We all came together, had something to prove. A lot of guys came together for the first time, and we were just hungry, wanting to, do well, show everybody that they had made mistakes by releasing us from teams. And also, we didn't have any egos. Everybody just came in and meshed and played well together.
It was great. Doing everything from the beginning, ordering the very first uniforms, ordering the very first everything for the franchise. It was a lot of fun. But there was a lot of hard work too. Things weren't real smooth either at the time. We used a place called the Grady Cole Center to practice at, and it was difficult because it wasn't a practice facility only. It was a building to use for other events. So we had to work around kind of some other things. It was a challenge.
I just remember, it resonates well, small staff, you just chip in, you just do whatever you have to do. Some days you're on the floor, being a dummy on the floor, the next day you're wiping the floor, or you're helping build locker rooms, you're trying to facilitate a small training room and an equipment room. And I mean, it's fascinating to me to see the size and the scope of how small everything was at that point compared to what we see today.
one thing that stood out for me, one, you knew all the spots were open. There's a couple, that Coach Harder probably had inked in as starting, but the playing time was wide open.
It was a big emphasis of Dick Harder, the coach, that we come into training camp, and rightfully so, in shape. So he put some mile times on us, and that was something that we were going to have to do to participate in camp and let everybody know we were in shape. So I spent a good part of the summer training, doing some interval training, working with a friend of mine to get my mile time, as down as low as I could possibly get it.
Well, training camp was a lot different than it is today. If we didn't have a trash can in training camp, that wasn't training camp, because we knew someone was going to eventually wander over to that trash can.
Earl Curtin, who ran cross country in high school or college, he just took off like a rabbit, and he's running around and he's just talking and laughing, and he's just so far out in front of everybody else that it was just a joke. So I don't even think he breathed hard through that entire mile, but he was pretty incredible to watch him run.
You know, it's like a combination of, you know, just being with the guys, you know, the road trips that we took together, the traveling, you know, all the things. And Dick Harder was like, he was pretty entertaining in the locker room. I mean, we all got great locker room stories about how Dick would come in and just wear us out, you know, in the locker room. I mean, he would say some things to us that, I mean, it hurt at the time, but we laughed, and I tell you, it was some funny stuff.
But the thing that stood out for me, the very first practice at the Grady Cole Center, I went up to shoot a floater in the lane. Kenny Fields pushes me in the chest. I used my hands and my arms, wrist to break my fall, and I ended up breaking my wrist. So I missed like the first 3 months of the season, and I'm like, what is going on here? But that was something that I remember, very first practice of the Hornets, I break my wrist.
I was joking with Dell Curry one day. We were in practice, I think at Grady Cole Center downtown. We were practicing there. And Dell and I were joking, thinking, how many games are we going to win? You know, because we just saw us as a team that would probably take a lot of losses. And he said, man, I think we'd be lucky to win 12 games, seriously. And but, you know, we ended up winning 20, and that says something about our team and our staff and how everybody came together, you know.
You can often turn on each other when you don't win a lot of games. But we were a really tight-knit group because we said, hey, we're all in this together. We know, let's play hard. We're not going to win a lot of games, but the city has put their arms around us, and let's just play hard for our fans and see what happens.
I thought, you know, we're suddenly in the same league as Los Angeles and New York and Chicago. And I'd spent some time around pro teams, but I'd never covered a pro team before. So I was excited, and I knew initially in this market there'd be a lot of interest because, you know, this was our first major league team. And, but for the phenomenon that occurred, I had no idea, and I don't think anybody did.
If we can ever get this noise and this crowd and become a home court advantage, establish that home court advantage, it could be something special here. And they just, you know what, they deserve all the credit in the world. The fans, this city, nobody knew anything about Charlotte. People around the country, when we go to other cities, they're talking about, they don't know anything about Charlotte. But they put Charlotte on the map. And that was the most important thing. People knew who Charlotte was, and we established that first year a home court advantage.
But then to make it really stick is to see the attendance record, to lead the league or to be near the top. And you know, I pretty much attended every game, and it was always amazing to me to see the number of folks that just started to bond with this team. It became Charlotte's team fully.
There were times though in that season though where we went on a long road trip. We lost a couple games before we left, went on a 6-game road trip, lost all of those games. We had lost 12 straight. And it was mid-March and we're coming back to Charlotte. And we're all wondering, oh my, how many people we're gonna have here tomorrow night. And the biggest surprise, the place was full. They wanted to make noise. They just had a blast.
I mean, that's why it was so easy to get up and go to that arena night in and night out to perform. I mean, even though we wasn't as talented, but just having that 6-man, that voice, and them screaming.
Everybody, that ticket was so hard to get, that ticket to go to games, and it was special. And people that were getting divorced, their season tickets would be in you know, who got the rights to the season tickets in the divorce. I mean, it was a big thing.
The fervor for the team was incredible. Well, it's a basketball hotbed. I mean, we couldn't go anywhere. I mean, people recognized us everywhere we went, and we weren't very good.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we were kind of the stars of Charlotte at that time, so people recognized us wherever we went. Small community, small town.
The initial month, it was like we had won a championship. Every place we went, you walked in. I don't think I picked up a tab. I went to get a sandwich. Somebody, oh man, they're so excited. Oh, I got your sandwich. You know, I don't think I paid for a meal that first month.
Wherever we went in town, we didn't have to spend $1. You know, restaurants welcomed us to come and all that. Everybody just, you know, opened their arms to us. So it was a tremendous feeling. Those fans today, back then, I still have not seen any city fans top those.
It just let me know that the fans were going to be behind us, the community was going to be behind us, and it was going to be a great ride.
It was just that whole involvement of the community accepting of you and wanting to be part of that first year, that first team.
You know, little did we know what kind of season that would become, but it was fantastic for me. It was a great experience. It was as good as experience you could ever have, losing 62 games. That's all I'll say. And that's a lot of games, but it was a lot of fun that first season.
From that moment on, you knew that we was in a special situation. I mean, here it is, we had a season where we won 20 games and we had a parade at the end of the season. And so it was a special time for the city of Charlotte.
At the end of the year, they decided, I don't know who did, the city or something, decided that they were going to have a parade.
Yeah, the parade was unique. Normally you see parades for, you know, teams that win championships. And here was a community wanting to throw a parade for a team that won 20 games.
Now, you have to understand, like, we knew we had not accomplished a lot to get a parade, but the city wanted to do it.
But I think it just showed how the community embraced the team. The players, I think, embraced it. It was a little weird to have a parade for a team that only won 20 games.
The fans were happy, and Carl Shear let them embrace us.
But it was fun. Robert Reed, I remember he was right up front and centered that parade.
This year we knocked on the door. Next year we're gonna kick it in. You know, so we were all getting full of ourselves. You know,
we were like, "Oh, hold down, Robert. You know, it's only our second year. We're gonna continue to climb and get better, but I don't know if we're gonna kick the door in year 2."
And I kind of stole that from him, and I knew the fans wanted to hear that. We didn't want to settle on what we did this year.
It had been a great season, and the fans, when they came out and gave us that ticker tape parade, I thought, this is crazy. We won 20 games, you know, so imagine how it would be if we won 50, you know?
Look, truthfully, it was a little embarrassing because, you know, who am I? What, you know, the players I get, the coaches I get, the rest of us, I don't know. But, I mean, now that it's, you know, 30-plus years removed, hey, I got to be in a parade once. But that just shows you the enthusiasm.
But you know what? I got to ride on a car with the trainer, Terry Koffler, and it was probably one of the highlights of my life to ever be in a parade.
The fans really made it. Having a opening night with that type of ambiance, ending the season where we did, only winning 20 games, and you know, they sent it off with a parade. It just lets you know how appreciated they was of us and showing the support, having a professional team in the city, and they never stopped.
I asked Del Curry years later, decades later, I said, "Did you know what you had?" He said, "I don't think any of us did," because that was a special group.